everyone. This is Miss Owens, and this is our first geography lecture. And this is going to be different than if we did it in class, just for the simple reason that you can't see me. You can only hear my voice. And you are going to be going through, I'm going to be going through the PowerPoint. And as I'm going through it, you will be filling out your notes guide. And you have two of these. You have one that's just the front and it says defining geography. So if you'll make sure that you have that one out. The second one is the next set of notes, and that's Geographer's Tools. And this is the one that's front and back. We're not doing this one first, okay? The first one is defining geography. And the reason I am showing you this is the last time I'll ever show you the notes guide. Because you're going to have that and you're going to know what you're doing, okay? And this is going to be a lecture that's on Canvas that you can go back to and you can listen to. I understand that not everyone is able to listen to it, at least right now. And so for that reason, you have the printout of the PowerPoints, and you've got 4 slides per side. So you've just got one sheet of paper for this one, and it's the one that starts with introducing geography. So make sure you've got the right page out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and begin my presentation, and we're going to go through it like this. Okay, and this is a chapter. This unit is not overly long. At least the first 2 are fairly short, as is climate. Culture can be a little bit more involved, but this last one, the population, political, economic, and urban geography, is probably going to be a lot bigger. And we'll take a little bit more time, a lot more time to go through that. And that's getting more into the human geography aspect of things. Now, as we go through, hopefully, let me go back out of this and pull this back up. If you look at this, you can tell that I have pretty much the same thing on here that is also on here on your PowerPoint presentation. So it's pretty much word for word. So I've given you space to write things. Look at where your bullets are to make sure that you're filling in the right things. So an example here is that you have about the word geography and what the words mean, geo and graphin. And then you have the first geographers, or the first geographers wrote about their observations of the earth. That's what you would write down. You would write the first geographers wrote about their observations of the earth. Let me see if I can move up just a hair more. It's kind of hard for me to do that. So let me go one more. So you can see how I have that. I've tried to make this as easy as possible, okay? All right, let me get rid of that and let's start this again, okay? So again, this is geography. This is our first unit. And what we're looking at is, one, how it came to be. And that's important just because it's always good to know about the history of it. But this is about the extent of our history. From here on out after this slide, we're looking at geography, okay? And this is an old term. We have had geographers, at least if we think about the word geography, for 2,200 years. And it is Latin. It comes from the Latin geo, which means graphin, and geo, which means earth, and graphin, which means write. That's because our first geographers were the ones who were writing about what they saw. And if we can think about a more modern, and it's not modern as in it happened within our lifetimes, but modern as in sooner than, you know, a lot closer than 2,200 years. America is named after Amerigo Vespucci, who was Italian. And he did not discover America. He did not really do much more than write about this land in letters. And in those letters, he was just trying to convince people that this was a separate land from India, that we had found a new land. And so from his writings, he was honored with America. But it's just kind of give you an example of a travel writer. He had traveled the earth and he wrote about what he saw, and that is going to influence others, okay? And that's kind of getting into that second bullet right here, that they were travel writers. And it's observation is so important as we look around and we tell people what we see. And again, if you think about it, we're not always accurate in what we say, and we don't always accurately remember things, or it may be different than what the person beside you saw. Okay, so anyway, just understanding the history of geographer is that those first geographers didn't go to school. They didn't major in geography. They just traveled and wrote about what they saw. Okay? There's two types of geography that we're going to be looking at this year. The name of our course is Human Geography, and that's important, and that's what we're going to look at next. But the first is physical geography, and here we're looking at the physical attributes of Earth. We are looking at its seasons, its climate, its atmosphere, its soil, its streams, landforms, oceans. And this is the kind of things where, you look at the mountains and you look at its physical attributes and what it looks like and what it feels like, that kind of thing, okay? The other, and here's an example of a physical map. You have a map, and this one's breaking it down into climates. Okay, so you've got the very different climates. You got your temperate, and it's getting us as the subtropical right here. If we want to look at South Carolina, feels like that today anyway. But this is an example of a physical geography, a physical map, because it's looking at the this says political map. It is political, but it's also looking at a physical attribute, its climate. Others show the mountain ranges and the oceans and things like that. Human geography is the study of the distribution of networks of people and cultures on the surfaces of the earth. And here's the thing, I don't only have limited space, so I'm just giving an example with these maps. And this is a population map, and if you look at it, it's very distorted. This is India, and it doesn't look anything like India because it looks so big and it looks fat. It looks distorted, and China over here looks extremely distorted, and that up there is Russia, but we know Russia should be huge and Japan should be much smaller. The reason these are bigger is because these are areas that have a large population, and so this kind of map makes the country the size it's relative to its population. And if you look at the United States as compared to Canada, it looks not huge compared to Europe, but it looks pretty big compared to Canada, and even looking at Mexico, though Mexico looks pretty normal, as does the United States to a degree, but South America is looking a little distorted. I'm just going to use the word distorted, okay? So you can see Europe looks tiny too compared. So, but human geography is, we're looking at the human aspect of it. We'll look at things like government and economics, and we'll look at movement and migration, and we'll look at population and different things like that. So a lot of times it's an exciting way of looking at geography. Okay, so as we think about how to break geography down and how do we make it easier to teach it, the geographers over time have created 5 themes of geography to help. Now, because somebody felt like, ooh, 5, that's way too broad, let's make it bigger. And so they created these 18 geography standards, and then they kind of bridged it with 6 essential elements. Now, all of that is all I'm going to tell you. Is all you need to know are the 5 themes. You do not need to know the 18 geography standards, and you definitely don't need to know the 6 essential elements, okay? So the 5 are location. Location is the first. So make sure that you're writing this down and that you're defining it. And location is simple. In terms of a definition, it describes where something is. And you have 2 different kinds of location. You have absolute location, and if something's absolute, it's exact, okay? And we would use GPS. That's an example of how we find exact position. If you put into your GPS your address, it is going to give you the coordinates, and it tells you turn here, because there's an exactness to it. It's very specific. You also have relative location, and that's, you kind of express where a place is in relation to another place. And I've simplified it here with, locations in York. Pelicans is across the street from Walmart. You have to know where Walmart is to get to Pelicans from this. Another way of looking at it is New York is to the north of Washington, D.C. You may not know where New York is, but you have to know where Washington, D.C. is in that aspect. North Carolina is to the north of South Carolina. So it's relative. It's based on where something else is. Now, over here, you'll notice I have what we will learn. These are getting into those 18 other, how did we put them? The 18 geography standards, but I just kind of put those over there. You do not need to know the what will we learn. I'm just letting you know this is the kind of things that we're going to be looking at through the year. Okay. Place is the second one, and this describes the physical and human characteristics that make a location unique. Regions are areas that share common characteristics. I think about it like this. We're from the southern United States, and we have some very definite characteristics, common characteristics, y'all. And so, it's the way we speak. It's our commonness, the things that we share a history. And so these are what make up regions, and regions aren't as cut and dried, as exact as a political boundary, so just let you know regions, and they usually stretch further than just one state. Okay, and again, the what will we learn, and you can pause here if you want to look at that. The third is movement, and it explains how and why. Notice that there is a why there. It's not just how they move, but it's the why they move, and they're connected. And then you finally have human-environment interaction. Okay, and this describes the relationship between people and their environment. And then there's whoosh, all that stuff right there that you're going to learn. Okay, and to end today's notes, how can we remember those 5 themes of geography? Because you're going to need to know them. You can remember it. Just think about your hand. If you'll look over here, if you think about your hand, my hand really likes pizza. And then that's the first letter on all of those. Okay, so my hand really likes pizza. So once you're done with your notes, you will need to take a picture of them and upload them into your Canvas. Okay, if you have any questions, if there's anything that you do not understand, you can shoot me an email. You can send it over Canvas, through Canvas, or you can wait until you return to school and you can ask me your questions then. All right, thank you, and I will see you all soon.